Scenario 3 with all basic advanced rules and rules listed below. This is a folded gap scenario. The NATO units are the American 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, and the Soviets is a Soviet Guard Regiment. The American ACR is to act as a speed bump and slow the Soviet advance down so that the rest of the American forces and NATO forces can get into position. In this game, the headquarters unit has 4 Abrams, line Abrams, in 1, 2, 3, 4, a platoon of Abrams. They have a headquarters Abrams. They have a section of recon scouts, I guess, recon unit. And then they have this M106A2. The M106A2 is a mortar unit. It's a mortar unit on an M130 track. Command span for NATO is 10 hexes, so NATO has a very wide command span here. Soviets, on the other hand, have a very narrow command span. Their command span is only 6 hexes, and that's because they have an augmented to control. I put the NATO units on the far west. The Soviets are coming on the east. I put the NATO units on the town in the far west of the board. That's giving me maximum flexibility. The Soviet forces, I broke the Soviet routes into 4 possible routes. The first route is the northern route where they can come. There's a big hill here, level 3 hill. They can come over that. There's a middle route where they come right down the main road, the highway, the paved road, the main road. And the third route is to come in and stage. There's a town near the east edge of the board. They can come and stage there and decide what to do, or they can come through the southern route. My previous playthrough, the Soviet forces staged in the Bravo area, and then they took the southern route. The way command span works is you need to have all your units within the command span of your headquarters vehicle or squad, or in this case, both sides have a headquarters tank. If you have any units outside that command span, then only half your units can be move commands. It basically makes your life difficult, especially if you're command span, but we'll see that as we go through this game. In addition to the headquarters company, NATO has 4 recon sections. Each recon section has a Bradley and a section. Bradley has TOW missiles. TOW missiles are excellent at firing far away, not so good up front. And very low firepower. They do have a light anti-tank weapon, which has a range of 3. It's really only effective at 1 hex, so they're mainly defensive units. Now, the value of the recon section is they can call in indirect fire, and my indirect fire unit is the M106 mortar unit. And I have 1 recon section in the big hill on the north. I have another recon section in the very south. There's some orchards there. I have a recon section there, and they have a recon section on top of the southern hill. The way I set up my recon sections, I put the recon unit under full cover, and behind them I put the Abrams. I did that because it's kind of easier to see, not the Abrams but the Bradleys. It's easier to see the Bradleys, so I want to protect the whole point of recon units is you're not able to see them. And the whole idea is once recon units did their spotting, they pull back. The section gets in the Bradley and drives off. And if you watch this, you'll see whether that worked or not. The good thing about the recon units is they don't have to be within the command span, and they don't count against, basically they're each their own. Each recon unit is its own, has its own command. They can operate independently. That's their big advantage. The Soviets, meanwhile, let's see if I can look at the, okay, so here's the Soviet setup right here. They have 1, 2, 3, we got pulled back, 4, pull back more, 4, 5. So they have 5 platoons of T-80 BV tanks. 1, 2, 3 motorized rifle platoons. The motorized rifles have motorized rifle squads, and the carrying vehicle are the tracked BMP-2s. The headquarters platoon has the headquarters vehicle, and it has 3 2S1s. The 2S1s are basically portable artillery. They act as indirect fire weapons, or they can fire directly, but the whole idea is that that's their artillery. It can be used for indirect fire. They have a engineering section of 2 vehicles. The engineering vehicles are BRM 70s. They're tracked, no, they're wheeled actually. And they have this recon unit. Now that recon unit, the BRM-1, is important. That right there has the ability to spot X's, and if it can has line of sight to a unit because it has ground-based radar, that unit is automatically seen. Good thing about that recon unit too is that it can call in indirect. Forward. And so it's going to be on 20 units during the first turn, and then the rest of the units in the second turn. The Americans have an advantage in quality. The Americans get +1 die roll, they still roll, and whoever gets the best die roll wins, is a D100. And the Americans have a +20 to that because the Americans have a veteran unit, and the Soviets only have a seasoned unit. So that gives the Americans an advantage there. So I begun the game. The Soviets, the way I'm playing this is all the Americans for the first turn are in Overwatch mode, looking to see if any Soviets come aboard, and the Soviets move basically. And I'm not worried about the first turn. Okay, so moving forward, here we go. So bring on first vehicles. Now I did a die roll, and I think I made a mistake. I think I was supposed to come up north over here by having them coming down the main road. But anyways, that's random. So Soviets are doing down the main road strategy. If the command radius limits you to a certain frontage that you can use, that you can fire on. I also have platoon integrity too, where you can do one command for an entire platoon, but if you have 2 platoons in the same hex mixed together, they each need their own command. Now notice the line of sight is blocked by those woods. Those woods are like inherent terrain in ASL. Now that unit does have line of sight right there. Now I don't fire at it yet because I want to stay hidden. I'm just seeing what happens. That might have been a mistake, I don't know, but So I'm just doing some more last sight checks. Now I'm moving my units forward. So that's the first tank platoon. Now, that Bradley is spotting, seeing if against spotting is big in this game, and I'm doing both it's not automatic. If you're within spotting range, it's not automatic spot. You may have to roll a dice depending on how many units you have trying to spot. I'm also doing spot removal during the spotting phase. Spotting can occur at any time during a turn. And I'm also doing spot removal. Spot removal can only occur in the spotting phase, which is at the beginning of the turn. And you can only do spot removal if your unit has some type of cover. And you just roll for spot removal. So here's my spotting attempt. 90 or less to spot. 95, that unit is not spotted. So so what probably happened is so there were actually, I was just looking for that unit to spot. That unit would have been spotted. And the reason is you have every additional vehicle has +10 to the spotting. And you have all these Bradleys here. That unit would have been spotted according to the game rules. So I made a mistake of not making the right adjustments there. But as I go along, I'm learning the game. I do make corrections. So let's go forward. Now here I'm bringing in my next platoon of tanks. And then, and here's now this is a motorized rifle unit. Now my headquarters unit is coming along. These are the headquarters SM2s or SM1s. Right here for fire against them. So I check for a possible spot. That's definitely in the line of sight. And that's actually not in the line of sight. They can't actually see that. All right. Because it's a tabletop effect, I have two units, I have two hexes there. And the hex right after, even though I rolled for it, the hex right after the edge of the tabletop, you're not able to see. So you see me making mistakes early, but as I go on, I play better and better. Here's the next platoon that's coming on, and it wasn't spotted anyways. And here's another tank platoon, and they're coming up this hill. So the whole idea is this tank platoon that just came in, these 4 tanks, they go over this hill in the north and break that. And then meanwhile, the rest of the units come down the main road. And this unit right here that I'm going to move, right, that came next to that big hill, is actually the recon truck right there. This unit right here that's coming on now is the headquarters unit. And I'm moving it into position. And I did have all those under full cover. I just didn't add the mark at the very beginning. again, more baby steps, making mistakes. Okay, so here I'm trying to spot. And these are all spotting attempts. So I'm trying to spot the units that just came on the board. I'm trying to determine different routes. And as I go along, you're going to see this game played better and better. And particularly by turn. This is a 15-turn game, so thank you for your patience with me. So I just got hull down status right there. I rolled to put that Bradley in hull down status. Now you notice the way it's facing, it's hull down to the rear, basically. So that protects the side and the rear. And the reason is, because they don't have to turn around. If they need to drive off quickly, their section could get in and drive off quickly. All right, so that was it for the Soviet and American turn. The Americans' movement was just the hull down attempt. Now I'm going to go on to turn 2, I believe. And the rest of the Soviets are going to go on the board. So I didn't log turn 2. But if you want to see, again, go on my Patreon. It's absolutely free to the public. You can see my turn 2 playthrough. But here's turn 3. We're going into turn 3 now. You see that all the Soviet units are on the board. You see this Soviet tank units, they're coming up around the hill. One Soviet tank platoon is coming up around the northern hill. You see there was some action here. The American unit that's on the hill over there was fired on and suppressed. This right here, unfortunately, was the recon vehicle. The recon vehicle went forward and spotted some units, but then it got blown up. This Bradley on a hill was blown up, and it was blew up, and the recon unit was blew up. Over here you see the turrets. I'm using the turret counters, and they're pointing at the direction of the brewed up tank. They fired at them. Now this is kind of interesting. To cover the south, I wanted eyes to the south. One of the motorized rifle regiments came forward, and their squads are in these woods down here looking to seeing what's happening down south. And then you guys see the rest of the units on the board, the other tank platoons. So what happened? The Americans, you see some turrets with changed facings. There are vehicles here, 2 vehicles. The one vehicle in this hex right here. I'll move these units. Those right there, 2 of those are actually facing southeast or down to the right. And same thing in both units in this hex are facing down and to the right. So that's why I moved the turrets, so that the turrets in these vehicles can face in the direction that the Soviet vehicles are in. Here's a mistake I made. When I placed them, I should have turned them to face the north, because those units in the town, and that town to the west, they're facing to the southeast. When they start receiving fire, the facing that they receive fire on is not going to be the front facing. And the front's facing for almost all tanks, if not all tanks, that best armor's up front. So that's another error, and you'll see that these things eventually add up. Okay, and up here, this tank platoon that went over the mountain or the hills, you notice where the turrets are facing. They already have the turrets in the facing in the direction of my units in the town, even though they can't see them yet. Okay, let's go forward and see what happens. So we're in the spotting phase. I'm checking the range because I believe I'm going to fire, but let's see. I'll take a look at the log. There it is. I'm doing another range check here. Now I'm trying to see if I actually spotted that unit. I forgot to take into consideration all the other units right here, because I have so many units, because each unit adds 10 to the spotting, and if you reach 100, then it's an auto spot because there's too many units spotting. So these spotting rolls weren't necessary. All right. Is on a level 1, and the height of these buildings is level 1 because of the tabletop effect. It's not spotted. It wouldn't be spotted anyways. So now I am taking number of units in line of sight range. And spot removal was not available because it was on the level 1 terrain. So we're looking for the Bradley in hex 3H3. Bradley in hex 3H3 is this one right here. 27. Okay, so we're going down south. So over here, the unit in the woods is looking for this Bradley. 3 units have line of sight to it. The range is 12, which is less than half the max range. The crops for Bradley, the medium cover, no movement or fire last turn. And that unit right there loses its spot. So the infantry unit is not able to spot that unit. And I did make some mistakes early on in this game. Now it's the command phase. NATO units has 8 units. So the 8 units means 5 commands, and each recon unit has its own commands. Soviets have 33 units and 20 commands. Everybody at this point is in command span, so each side can have an unlimited number of move commands. Here I'm placing commands. Now, here's the indirect fire combination. I have a unit in Overwatch right there, and I have a unit right here, and there's my firing unit, so that's why I gave it a fire command. So you have the 106 mortar do indirect fire on a soft skin vehicle. Indirect fire from a mortar against the T-80 BV tank is pretty much going to be ineffective. I'm giving all my tanks on the forward line in these buildings fire commands. It's on. Now I'm giving this Bradley over here a move command. Why did I do that? Let's see. So I gave that Bradley a move command for some reason. Not sure why, but we'll find out. So the units on top of the hill, I still have that Bradley on top of the hill, and I have that suppressed section. That suppressed section, any shot it takes is probably going to be ineffective. I would have been better off just to give it a no command, because because the only ones they can fire at, they have a light anti-tank weapon. It's a handheld weapon. It's range of 3. That's extreme range, and when you're suppressed, chances are you're not going to fire and hit anything. Now, Bradley, that's another case. They have a chance of hitting. Yeah, I think I actually had the common sense to do that. So I just put the, so I did the right thing there. I actually put that section on Overwatch. Yep, Bradley gets fire command. So we're looking down south now. The southern hill. So now the units on the southern hill, I gave them a move command. They're going to move out and get out of there, pull back. So meanwhile, but I want somebody to cover that, because theoretically I want somebody to cover that avenue of approach. So that's why I'm keeping, because other units might be coming in front of them, so technically that's why I'm keeping that Bradley there with its section. These units right here that are coming up on the big hill, up on the northern end of this hill, I give them a move command. And these are more T-80s. These T-80s that are coming, that at the bottom of this northern hill, they're going to come up and they're going to try to take out or overrun this unit, well, they're going to try to first destroy the Bradley unit, then destroy that Bradley section there. That tank is going to fire because it has line of sight to the top of the hill. Those two tanks are going to fire. Just checking my range, making sure I can do it. I actually can do it, so I think I changed my fire. Well, they can fire at the building straight ahead of them anyways. And Overwatch for them. Here I'm just giving, some other units are moving up, getting into position. These units right here, the whole purpose is Overwatch, just to watch the south, to cover that flank of the advancing forces. And I'm going to move, that's the last tank of this tank platoon, the third tank. I'm going to move them where it can get into the firefight. Right there. And my headquarters units are doing some moves. All right, so let's see what we got going on here. So we did the initiative. Now, smoke dispenser. I have a unit in 1W4. So let's take a look at the hex 1W4. See if I want to use smoke dispenser. BB7. 1W7. So 1W4. So 1W4 is actually the smoke dispenser attached to this Bradley. The smoke dispenser, if I get the die roll, will only cover the smoke will only cover the Bradley. So, and that occurs during the, okay. And you smoke, you find, oh, that vehicle doesn't have smoke, or oh, that vehicle doesn't have smoke. Here's the initiative roll. So that's NATO's roll. I always do NATO's roll first. That's 33 plus 20 because NATO is a veteran unit, 53. And Soviets roll 46, so NATO gets the initiative. NATO has direct fire. I'm surprised I didn't do it. Well, I didn't do a direct fire. I could have done a direct fire attempt against, there's a soft skin vehicle right there. I could have did a direct fire, an indirect fire attempt. I should have, actually. I'm prepped for it. Yeah, there you go. NATO indirect fire. So I'm going to try to call indirect fire. And that's 2 recon squad. So I want to see if I can nail one of the 2S1s of the Soviets here, because they are soft skin vehicles. Range is 20. Availability is 6 or greater. roll a 1, so it's not available. So the call for fire had no response. And over here now I'm going to resolve some of the fires. Okay. Direct fire phase. So what I did, I just took the fire marker off the M106 Abrams, and I should have taken the overwatch. Well, I should have taken the overwatch off of that section, because if you try to call for an indirect fire and you get no response, you lose your overwatch. So that was a mistake. Now I'm checking from the, because NATO is, I'm checking the Bradley from the hill. That would be a good shot, because that would be a rear shot, I believe, if I can get it. I'm just checking the where it would hit. I'm just moving. So I need to put turret marker now on that Bradley, so that the Bradley fires at point blank range, rear target facing turret. Now this is in Overwatch. You can do a turret facing change, and it would be in called Overwatch. You need to do an Overwatch adjust. However, you can't, if you want to do direct fire without Overwatch from a fire command, you already have to have that unit in your line of sight. So that Bradley could have fired against this unit down here, would have been no problem. But it didn't. So what I'm asking you to do is illegal. Yep. So the 120-degree combat arc would be where that turret was initially. So I take off the turret marker. That would be a shot. That shot wouldn't be allowed. Well, yeah, that shot would be allowed, actually. So Bradley fires upon one is to at range 4 using anti-tank and missile tows. So it's a short range veteran unit, +1 for target moving. Actually, it's, yeah, veteran unit +1, target moving -1, rear side aspect, and descending shot. 70 to hit, 95 is a miss. And I take that fire marker off. All right, I'm going to stop here. I think this is a long enough video. I want to keep my videos more manageable. Again, if you want to see the complete playthrough real time, it's on my Patreon. It's available to the public for free. I thank you very much. You have a good day. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.